now a National Historic Site, and it's referred to as Kate's Light. My name is Len Tantillo. I've been painting historical subjects for the last 40 or so years. My projects have taken me from the period of Native Americans through the colonial era of the Dutch and the colonial era of the English and through the Industrial Revolution and up to the present. I have had some wonderful clients, and I've met some incredibly talented historians along the way. I went to Rhode Island School of Design. I graduated in 1969. I was a student of architecture there. I have a Bachelor of Architecture degree. But I was always more interested in art. I've been doing drawings and paintings since I was a boy. I think that experience has sort of stayed with me, and it's probably had a lot to do with shaping my career. Some years ago, I had the good fortune to meet John Ebersol, who is a past president of Excelsior College. He contacted me and said that he thought the college would be interested in commissioning a painting for an upcoming anniversary. He was very interested in doing something historical, but Excelsior College hasn't existed for very long. It's more of a phenomenon of recent years. So there was no history really to go back to in terms of the beginnings of the school, and especially a setting for something. It's not like, doing a historical piece for an institution that has an age-old campus or something like that. He said, well, let's kick around a few ideas and let's see what we can come up with that would be a fit. Well, I started thinking about Excelsior and what it does, what it's all about. Excelsior is a college that doesn't have a campus. Excelsior is a college that draws students from anywhere, can be any place on the globe. It's a school without a classroom. And I started thinking, you know what? There is a kind of historical precedent for something like that. In the 19th century, there were a group of itinerant teachers that traveled, and they became what is known today as the Americanlyceum. The Lyceum movement involved teachers who had a great understanding of history or science or writing, and they would just travel and from town to town. This started in the 1830s, and it involved a large part of the then United States. It was a little bit like a tent revival in a way. They would travel from place to place. Any adults who were interested in getting an education could participate in this. They could just go, listen to the speaker, and then get a lesson or two, and the teacher would then move on to the next town, and there would be a circuit. So eventually that teacher would come back to the same area, and the students could then get another lesson or ask questions. In its heyday, the Americanlyceum had some incredible participants. They weren't all teachers, but they all had something to offer. So the list of names that were involved in the Lyceum movement is pretty impressive. It's Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, Susan B. Anthony, Stephen Douglas, and one that I think would have been amazing to attend, Abraham Lincoln, did a Lyceum. And there are hundreds of others, maybe not quite as well known, but definitely inspiring and interesting. And the students who would attend these events, there were many veterans after the Civil War that were interested in specific subjects, and they might be there. There were free blacks who would attend these lyceums. It was an education for everyone. There were men, there were women, there were poor. In the painting, when you study the participants, you'll see this kind of diverse audience, this diverse group. There are a couple of characters in the painting that are obviously somewhat special. There's the character of the teacher. So he has his wagon full of books and lessons and supplies, and he travels with this. My favorite teacher of all time was my high school history teacher. His name is Robert Bennett. More recent years, we've gotten back together again. And he had such a profound influence on me. I thought I would somehow include him in this. He was like the teacher of all teachers for me. The teacher's trunk, which is kind of off to the side of the wagon, I put his name on it. His initials and his last name, Bennett, is on the trunk. The other character I think of interest is the woman who's walking down the path. And I was thinking of her as the landowner. So she's volunteered her field, her farmyard, her whatever, her little portion of New York State to have this event, to host this event. So she's about to come over to see what's going on. President Ebersol, he ascribed an interesting sort of subtle symbolic classification for her. He thought of her as Lady Liberty because she's carrying a lantern or a symbol of education. I liked that, but that wasn't my invention. That was John's invention. The idea that I had in mind was curiosity, and so yeah. And you know, probably these events, maybe sometimes they took place at night. I would imagine that many of them took place at night because a lot of people work during the day, and so that's the reason for a night scene. It became a kind of a challenge to see what I could do with light in a scene like that. So lantern light kind of coming from a number of different sources creates interesting patterns and shadows on the ground, and it can illuminate the crowd, and I can make your eye sort of move around in the painting. Overall, it was a wonderful experience. I got to learn about Excelsior College. I made a new friend with John Ebersol, and hopefully people will get the idea that this is a symbol of an education without a campus, a school without classrooms.